How you doing, my friend?
Dave, an honor and privilege to be here. Honor and privilege to see you. It's always a great to do these sessions.
Yeah, indeed. And here we are. It's the 13th of September, and just a week and a half or so away past the Labor Day weekend. And I understand that you had a chance to take a couple of days off. You went out to Lake Tahoe for a few days. Is that right?
Yes, I did. I went up to Lake Tahoe. We rented a boat. We went out and got a little battery recharge because it's just like it was called battery effect. You don't recharge your battery, you don't have enough energy. And running a business is one of the hardest things you'll ever do. So you got to make sure you're recharging your battery so you got the energy to go in and run the business.
Exactly right. And of course, that's a fantastic transition because today's discussion topic has to do with the fact that running a business is the hardest thing you're ever going to do. So let's take a look at, why don't we just get this party started here? We talk about this, that not just starting a business, but running a business is a very challenging thing. And why is it so hard?
Well, you've got all these different hats. We do the hats thing that you've got to do. You got to be the CEO and the VP of marketing, the VP of sales. You've got to be a lot of different things, and it is very difficult to switch the mind share. Where when you typically have a job, you've got a set scope, a set area of responsibility, and you go home at 5 o'clock, and it's kind of, hey, I'm kind of done. Even though no matter how much you're into your company or your job, it's still somebody else. Whereas when
Yeah.
you're running a small business, it's all you. You are responsible for all of your employees. The stress is higher. Everything is higher. Running a small business is the hardest thing you can ever do.
Yeah, and it's interesting too because um, the knowledge that you have from whatever your skill set is, your high area of competence as that you executed when you were working for somebody else transfers to the business. However, there's a whole bunch of other stuff that goes along with running a business that wasn't something that you would necessarily have been exposed to, right?
That's right. That's right. And when I started this, I read a lot of books to get prepared for this. Understanding the knowledge that you need. And one of the books said, get in the best shape of your life, physically and mentally. And because when you're starting to run this, sometimes you get going and you forget to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we talked about in the counseling system is make sure you're taking care of yourself, eating right, and getting your exercise in. Because without your health, you don't have a business anyway.
That makes absolute sense. And you know what that tells me is that from what we've just been talking about, most new business owners experience when they come into trying to do this and taking care of all those hats and everything is something that kind of looks like this, right? So,
Absolutely, and usually it's funny, Dave. And usually when you start off, you're like, "Oh, I know what I'm doing." And you jump in there, and in about the 9 month time frame, this is what you start looking like. Okay, and then it's like, what did I get myself into? This is a lot harder than I thought. And if you can break through that, the 2 year time frame is typically that tipping point where you're actually running the business and you've got a handle on it a little bit more. You can expedite that with the brainSHARE.online system
yeah,
and move
absolutely.
that a lot further forward. But this is typically, if you talk to a small business, or especially that first year, this is what they look like.
And you've mentioned this before. We've talked about this before in other decompression sessions that um, the percentage of businesses that start that don't make it past year two is huge. And these
87%.
Yeah, 87%. And these things that we're talking about, wearing the different hats, having expertise in one area, but not necessarily in running a business, having to deal with all the things you have to deal with, those are a lot of the kinds of things that contribute to it. Now, a lot of people think, oh, it's because I didn't have enough money. Well, maybe not. But if you had all these other things in place, you might be able to actually generate the kind of business that would give you the money that you need in order to operate and to have longevity. But let's take a look at this a little bit further because you talk about this all the time, that not just running a business is the hardest thing you'll ever do, but if you do it right, you can build a business that works without you, and you can have a business and still have a life. That's an important consideration, because so many new business owners are finding they're working, 90, 100, 120, 180 hours a week. And that's the only thing the only thing they do is sleep, eat, and go to work. And that's about it. And everything else falls by the wayside, including their own personal health.
Well, and this is kind of interesting, because I was reviewing somebody's calendar this morning, and I said, okay, where is your personal time? Where is do homework with the kids? Where is date night with the wife? Where is your personal time to decompress? And I suggest putting that all on the calendar so that it's allocated, because if it's not, you're probably going to do something that's probably not what you should be doing. So
yeah,
allocating those work, exercise, meditation, these are all things that you can put on your calendar, and you get in that rhythm and routine. That's what makes a business run.
That takes us back to understanding the overall framework, because we talk about this as part of the foundational elements of building a business like building a house. And you're talking about what you were just discussing is the time management area, or the time, not really managing time.
You can't manage time. You can only manage yourself.
Yeah,
right. But the calendar helps you manage yourself.
Right, right. And that is probably one of them. It's definitely one of the most important things, because you can have a goal, you can have an understanding of your finances, and you can even have some levels of consistency in terms of standardization and process activities. But if you're not managing your calendar and coordinating your activities in the course of a day, a week, a month, none of these other things are going to have the level of effectiveness and efficiency that they should. Yeah.
Dave, I like to put it like this: time is your most valuable asset. You can make more money, but you can't make more time. When today is gone, it's gone forever. You can't get it back. So how you utilize your time will determine the success of your life and your business.
There you go. Absolutely right. I like that. How you utilize your time will determine the success of your life and your business. Speaking back to the business, I just want to kind of review this a little bit, if you don't mind, talking about the framework in the house, because it's important that people that are business owners understand that you can't do everything all at one time. You don't put the roof on a house before you put the walls up, okay? That sort of thing. And even as your business is growing, and we've talked about this in one of the other videos on cycle of business, as your business grows and reaches new plateaus, you're going to have to review all these things in a new unit of time, because you have actually a distinctly new business model, because you're growing. So let's take a look at some of the next, because after you get the foundation in, you tell us that.
Well, Dave, I want to elaborate, because a lot of businesses jump right into market positioning without having the strong foundation of your time allegations, your goal, your standards, and your finance. Those, I hate to say it, but those are pretty boring. But marketing's pretty fun, at least for me anyway.
Yeah.
So before you jump into your marketing and your sales training and all of that, you need to make sure that you've got the foundation in place. And that's I see that a lot with new business owners, where they don't get that foundation in place, and they start up there and then they have to go back down and really revamp the foundation.
Let me ask you a question about that, Joe, because one of the things that you want to try to do when you start a business is to begin generating revenue as quickly as possible. So as you look to put these other foundational elements in place, how do you balance that effort to bring in revenue against the wisdom and the need to establish these foundational elements, which don't necessarily you may not be able to do in 2 or 3 days, or even 2 or 3 weeks?
It's your time allocations. It really is. It's your time blocking. You know what? Okay, I need to spend some time on vision, mission, purpose, and goal setting. That doesn't take that long if you are focused on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it goes back to your time putting your standard processes together. You don't put them all together. You just get the high, and you're kind of building. It's like you a little bit here and a little bit there, and then you go back and you're building it up. So it doesn't happen overnight. You don't do nothing but the foundation. You might have to do some of both and bounce around a little bit. That's okay, but do it consciously, not unconsciously, because that's the key. When you're making conscious decisions, they're usually good ones.
Got it. That's great. That makes an awful lot of sense. Thank you for that. All right. So now we know that you can be manipulating your market positioning activities as you are completing this establishment of your foundational elements so that you can begin to generate some revenue. And you talk about the fact that sales training is within this realm of market positioning as well. Yeah.
Absolutely, because sales training talks about your target market, what's your unique selling proposition, your guarantee. So you do sales training before you spend any money on marketing, because it doesn't do any good to get a bunch of leads if you don't know how to convert them. So sales training is one of the first things you must do after defining your target market and unique selling proposition.
I'd like to touch on that just a little bit more because I think some people might miss the point that you can effectively identify your selling activities, what that means, how you go about it, what is your offering, what are your the advantages and benefits and all that sort of stuff, and therefore be able to go out and start talking to people about your product or service to start even bringing in revenue before you establish a complete marketing campaign. You may have, if you and or your team don't understand what you have to offer and don't understand how it's priced and don't know what the benefits are.
It's not like you don't understand it, but you need to be able to articulate it to your potential client.
Exactly.
That's what matters.
Yeah.
Because you can understand it yourself, but if you can't explain it in terms that the potential client will understand, it's a waste of energy.
It's a waste of energy. And you can begin taking those actions to communicate with a potential client before you fully develop and execute a marketing campaign.
Absolutely. It's just like anything. You got to practice.
Exactly.
You're not going to get good at it unless you practice.
I wanted to make sure we stated that because people might, I didn't want people to think, oh, well, I can't start selling until I've got, no. You can start selling from day one as long as you know what it is you're doing.
Well, you know who was good at that was Kickstarter, right?
Oh, right. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so let's move up to the next floor after you get the sales training market position and we get into systems. And we talk about systems a lot in the acronym Save Yourself Time, Energy, and Money, etc. But the systematizing, I guess is the word, is
well. Let me give you a simple example. I was working with a client this morning, and he had on their truck maintenance on his calendar. And I said, fantastic. I said, where's your checklist? And he's like, what do you mean? I said, well, if you don't have a checklist, how do you know what you're supposed to do for truck maintenance? Check the oil, check the tires. What's your process? And that's what systemizing it is about, is defining your processes so somebody else can do it, and then optimizing those processes.
Right.
Keep it simple.
There's a correlation, I think, between standards and systems, though. Is there not?
That standards is kind of defining what you're currently doing, and systems is starting to optimize them.
Okay, got it. Because then, if at this point you're likely to have other people involved, whether they are outsourced assistants, virtual assistants, or whether they're employees or family members that you're bringing in to get some stuff done. That systemization and process definition enables you to deliver in a more standardized manner.
Yeah. So when you get to market positioning, you kind of typically get away from that feast and famine scenario. Oh, I got money, steak and lobster. Oh, I have no money. Top ramen and mac and cheese. And you get stabilized with the good market positioning, and then you start optimizing the systems, and then you move to putting the right team together.
Got it.
And that defines your org chart, roles, responsibilities, KPIs, and really understanding what team you need to
Right.
deliver, because the stronger the team, the more value the company is. Because if you have to be there, the business is not worth very much.
Right. I think um, you have over your career here in working in BrainShare really defined the steps that you need to take, and in you don't try to put your team together down here when you're establishing your goal. I mean, you need to do things in. Let me rephrase that. You've identified a sequence that makes sense for most businesses in order for them to be successful as growing to the point where they want to be, so that they can have the business of their dreams.
Yeah, that doesn't mean you don't need resources down there, because
Right.
you'll still need resources, but you really don't start thinking about what kind of team you need until you have your systems in place. Because if you put your team in place before you have your systems, you're going to need a different team after you systemize things.
Good point. Great
You're
point.
going
And
to
that
need you're going to need
emphasizes.
more of, you manage processes, you lead people, and
Mhm.
that team, that management team, has got to be leaders. Whereas when you're down there, you might be managing more processes. So it's a
Gotcha.
different skill set as you build the team.
Good point, and I'm glad we covered that. Then you reach that next point, that top layer, exit, expansion, enhancement in some way, shape, or form. Well, we've talked about this from different angles. You might be looking at adding a new product line or service, or diversifying what you do as a company, or maybe deciding that what I have is so darn good, I want to franchise it, or maybe
Yeah,
whatever. There's a lot of different things that exit slash expansion mean, other than I'm going to sell my business. You may or may not want to do
that's right. And the key to that is moving from a profit and loss focus to a valuation focus. Because if you need to borrow money, get an LOC, a line of credit, do something to expand,
that. Mm-hmm.
the valuation is what the business, what the banks and the lenders look at, is what's your valuation, not necessarily your P&L, because that can be that can be modified. So cash flow and your balance sheet and your valuation is what you really need to look at as you're looking to expand or exit, either one.
Got it. Very cool. Well, I hope this has been as interesting and useful to those folks that are on this call as it has been to you and to me anyway. And the real key here is brainshare.online. I mean, we've taken all of this knowledge, all of these tools of building a business, and put them into brainshare.online. So it's like 15 years worth of Joe's interaction with helping thousands of businesses, and putting it into a mechanism that makes it possible for any business owner or any leader within a company to be able to learn what they need to learn in order to be able to effectively grow and run a business. So,
Well, and Dave, and it's in bite-sized chunks,
yeah,
because running a small business is the hardest thing you ever do. There's so much to learn, so much to gather, so much to, but it's all in bite-sized chunks that you can walk through the process. And that to
exactly
me is the
so.
key, because I remember when I started this and I'm like, wow, my head's going to explode. There's too much stuff to learn. But when you go through the process of just this bite size and this bite size, then you can expand rather quickly.
Exactly. Well, very good. Well, Joe, I think we should end off here, because we're into about 15 minutes of conversation as we try to keep this to. So thank you for that. And if there are any other questions, we'll end the recording here and see if we can answer any questions from people. Here we go. Thank you.